Hey folks, today I'd like to go ahead and show you how to prune trees and shrubs on your property. But I want to do something a little bit different. I'm sure there's plenty of videos out there about how to do the 3-cut method. I want to show you the why you should prune using the 3-cut method. And I will at the end of the video show you how to do the 3-cut method. But over the winter I was actually splitting some wood and I found some great examples of what a really well calloused over cut looks like. So I just wanted to share with you today and show you the why of why it's so important to do the 3-cut method and what the benefits are for your tree. I was hoping to leave the logs on the ground, but it might be better if I just pick them up. But what I've got behind me here is, these are some logs from a large oak tree. It was probably about this big in diameter or so, that was cut down, and the tree had come to the end of its time and had started to decline. And I wanted to show you some examples of really well calloused over cuts. Here's one. If you take a look here, if you take a look, this would be a branch that somebody had cut off a long time ago, and this is where they would have sawed off that branch. And then here you can see the callus tissue has come in and formed that really nice callus over the wound to keep out any disease and moisture and prevent rot. And I don't know if you can see that way. You can see here, you can actually see where this tree was cut. And this is a wonderful example of how nicely trees can heal if you use the 3-cut method. Now this is a branch that was on the tree that for whatever reason, maybe the branch snapped off in a windstorm, but it wasn't cut using the 3-cut method. And as you take a look at this, you can see that there's a little more rot around the branch. It's not as clean of a cut. I mean, this really did heal over quite well, but it would have healed over better and improved the health of the tree had the 3-cut method been used. Honestly, this is really a best case scenario. If this branch was, extending out really, really far and had never been given a chance to heal over, the callus would have just kept working its way up along the branch and never got a chance to close that wound. The reason you want to do the 3-cut method is to make sure you close off that wound. Keep moisture out of there, keep insects out of there, prevent rot, close the wound. Just like with your skin, if you get cut, you want to put some stitches in there, close that wound as quick as possible so the healing can begin and prevent infection. This is probably the best example. This log right here, there used to be a branch right here. And I was trying to saw through the log, and if you take a look, here's all your callus tissue covering the end of that log. This is actually like a reverse impression. The wood of the branch is right here, and this is what snapped off after I cut it. But look at how nicely that healed over by using the 3-cut method and cutting it the right way. Whoever did this work, they didn't leave the branch so long. That it took forever to close the wound and rot got established. They cut it right in the right spot, and I mean there's no rot in there whatsoever. That's just a really nice example of the benefits of the 3-cut method. So besides just saying do the 3-cut method, I just wanted to show you why. I mean, that's so important. Just because somebody says to touch your toes, whenever you walk into a room, why? So there's my best example for you. One other thing I want to say is this branch is fairly substantial in size, and I really would not recommend you cutting a branch this size on your own property. I would probably stay with branches 2 to 3 inches in diameter. If they're in a tough spot or high off the ground, I'd say, just let an arborist come in and do the work. You can do more harm than good, both to your trees and to yourself, if you climb up in a tree and try to use the 3-cut method. And the other thing is with the 3-cut method, if you cut it in the right spot, the tree's going to heal great. If you leave your stub too long, it might take a little bit too long or longer to heal, and that's going to result in some more damage. And if you cut your tree, your stub back too short, you can actually end up making it so it can never really heal because you cut out the callus tissue that can grow back. This is the best example I have of a branch to prune off, and I really don't have any other trees that need pruning. This tree is actually dead, and I just need to get around to taking it down all the way. But we're just going to keep the camera rolling no matter what happens, so let's see how it goes. The first thing is when you're pruning branches on trees, this is a bow saw, it's made for cutting firewood. This is a hand saw, it's made for cutting lumber. This is a pruning saw, it's a Felco 600. This is made for pruning branches. The thing that this pruning saw can do that the other two I just showed you can't is you can get into tighter spaces very nicely with the pruning saw. The other thing with the pruning saw is it's usually very sharp. My bow saw is sharp and my hand saw I try to keep sharp as well, but these things are razor sharp and it's the right tool for the job. So this is a Felco 600. I've had it for probably 10 years. Felco may have changed the model number, but this is a really nice one. I keep this in my back pocket whenever I'm pruning, rather than using a pair of lopping shears. This Felco 600 is just a great tool to have. So with the 3-cut method, what you want to do is the first thing whenever you're pruning branches is you want to get the weight of the branch off. The last thing you want is to come through and cut your branch and have the weight of that branch rip off the bark of the tree. That's the reason for using the 3-cut method. Because it's not going to heal right if you rip off that bark. It's going to cause more damage than good. Again, using the example of your skin, if you have a clean cut, it's going to heal better than a rough cut. So the first thing we're going to do with the 3-cut method is we're going to make a cut, usually anywhere from 6 inches to a foot out from the end of the branch on the underside. And what this is going to do is when we come through and we cut the top, if the bark starts to peel or wants to peel, it's not going to go past that cut. So then what we can do is just move a ½ inch to an inch outside of that first cut and cut down through the branch. And you see there it's hanging, but even if I pull it, well, that actually worked. It did get stopped by the undercut. So now that we've got the weight of our branch off the part we want to cut, this is called the stub. There are some fancy terms for this. There's one term called the branch bark ridge, which is right here. That's this kind of bunched up bark where the branch and the tree meet. And then there's a thing called the branch bark collar, which is around the tree here, and that's where you see kind of the, it's usually like a little bit swollen. The key is you don't want to cut into the branch bark collar. That collar is where all of your new growth is going to start. And if you damage that collar, you can cut it out and it just will never actually heal. So while I say there is a branch bark ridge and a branch bark collar, what I usually do is I just try to look at the branch and see where it stops being kind of swollen, and I just cut a little bit outside of that. It's better to err going a little too long than a little too short, within reason. So for this branch, what I'm looking at here is I'll put the saw backwards. You know, I'm going to be cutting this guy right around here or so. And what you want to do is you want to stay in control when you're pruning and just, you know, work your way through. Don't try to be a macho man or a speed demon, and just work your way through that branch. Now when you're getting near the end of the cut, you can always use your hand to hold it so it doesn't come down and tear the bark. So that's pretty much what you want to do. You know, this one's a little bit harder because the bark has already fallen off. It doesn't really have that bulge to it. But, you know, look for where the bark goes from being swollen to narrow down a bit, and just cut a little bit outside that. And again, the key is, you know, don't rush it. Usually when you're pruning, for me, if I'm pruning a larger limb around the yard, your arm gets tired, you know, as you work your way back. And then you get to the time when the most crucial cut comes and your arm is like jelly. So if that's the case, you know, take a break, you know, drag some brush to the brush pile or something, and then come back and do the final cut. But that's basically how you're going to go about doing the 3-cut method.